No negotiation, you. Everybody let's stand attention, you. No violence, no resolution, you. To hell with amalgamation, you. Fighting for our right, brother, it's not a crime. Biafra is our right, Make gonna give us a Biafra. We are Biafrans, lovers of freedom. We a nation, no contemplation. Pull the trigger, shoot down the weapon. Shake that, give me the fingers, machine gun. No more Nigeria, no more Sioux soldier for my area. Okereke, at the best fire way, I be okereke. The lock up till I'm the carry, they feel like okereke. Anything I made, they go one stop us okereke. We no want negotiation, we want abakeleke. Chekeleke, obikeleke. Oh, we want to spara sakeleke. No castigation, the our nation. My people let us go.
Apagoti, I come back again. Original Biafra from me, I come. See me a blessed land, me I want. Babylon, them I wanna push on down. My teacher, yeah, children, them a cry. Plenty men, every day, them a die. A wicked nation, them I know they try. I get a gospel, me I know they lie.
Egala isoko ndi Igbo kaite. Ibibio Igwerebu mu Biafra. Anang ijobuku mu Chukwu Abịama. Efik Ogota come together.
Yeah, I got pay a nail one day, I walk and whine. You when it were men, maka the people are crying. Catch you me, all the gonna moment, strong men should stand, man, did not make kuje. Urobo Isoko Egala Yana one day, we ain't scared of war. I got Kopa Hanakoma, no ha, ho ha. We are coming for our rights, that's why we the fight.
As a real Biafra, Nepunya Mebe, Tabakalashini, Repelape, and Timpa, Diliku, the Wahat, Diliku, Sana Pasai, one get you, boom, 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 Kona does it, run, Kevin Abasi, time for peace no more. This is time for war.
See, and this when Gimo, more Biafra, make we the go, so they pass, make we the go. Say Nigeria, make the la hill, and I know you loyal, let's go. All your must get set, let's go. The number, Ununa, all we need now go to you. Liver, very soon, when the Haga no dia, Oka Vum Vum, Hagamana Yeka, and a Washington, I hear Sula, when you had to call on Digo Nandia was a Bunda shade, it's in Welawayo, Guaria and one is in Welawayo, on the woman, on the Mere, Gebu, one them Gebe.
Oh, Yaga, yo, I'm for love this all the public. Me a Rasta man, I come back, Hebelebe, I'm a Suplami, when we turn the microphone, no one will be annulled. Better let them and tell them. Man no pause for me, man I kill people. In a big to a me one get to AIJ. Kanganu. My body done the hot yo. As if we win we move. If you put her, I shoot aside yo. Nkabagi ga. Nkadu kwagi chon. Cause I'm a full brand from the man.
Silence. Welcome, Biafra, there's a new land. Where the head is at? Tell me. I shoot them down. Never fire the king, cause we're the lions. Singing in the jungle. Yeah, we'll rule. Every time we step into the spotlight, we kill. Biafra, king of the world. Yeah, the king sits back.
Alright, now you know what we here for. We used to want peace, but now we want war. I was stopping and I will kill them. I will kill them. Huh? Moge be digga for your body, I do for death, man, no be dog, and near boom, boom, everywhere, my brother can't stop, bang, anywhere, and the killing can't stop.
This is a final warning to you all. And as for those who are holding our leader, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, release him now, or Somalia will be a paradise to Nigeria. Biafra kunitelu kaije.
Listen, to learn,
contemplation.
Listen and reason with your brains, your common sense, not your emotions. Alright? Who owns Catholic? Italians, Europeans. Who owns Anglican? England, Europeans. Who owns Pentecostal? USA, America. Who owns Islam? Arabics. All these religions are not owned by African or invented by any African country or ancestors, state or country. Listen, or people. Listen, Africa. Then, African Christians, where do you go for pilgrimage? Israel, right? African Islam, where do you go for pilgrimage? Saudi Arabia. No foreign country comes pilgrimage in Africa for anything. Listen, Africans. In Africa, what do we celebrate every year? Easter, European culture. Christmas, European culture. Ramadan, Arabic culture. Chinese New Year, Chinese culture. Africa, what event in Africa does the world respect and celebrate? None. Before we have our new moon festival is dead. Before we have our worldwide yam festival is dead. African, listen, so you understand why you are very weak, why you are the lowest race on the planet right now, why nobody respects you. Okay? Now, Africans, we answer John, we answer Paul, we answer Peter, we answer Josh, we answer Philip, we answer we answer Grace, we answer Peace. These are European English names and European names derived from the Bible. Alright? Africa, which foreign country answers African name? Which foreign country give their kids African name like Emeka, Toyinka, Mugabe, Malema, Mandela, Kagame? Nobody. Africa, listen. Now, in Africa, we speak same language I'm speaking right now, English. We speak English, French, Spanish, Portuguese. Now, these are foreign language. Arabics, these are foreign language. Which country in Africa, in the world, speak African languages? Which country in the world speak Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Zulu, Swahili? Do you know in the whole Africa, the most spoken language is Swahili? Swahili is supposed to be the official language in Africa, but we are speaking the language given to us by our oppressors. Africans, listen, because when I'm talking like this, you guys think I'm just talking out of ignorance. Anything I present to you on the media, on the internet, it's facts. I don't do with theories like in your Bible. Listen, Africa, and wake up. Africa, why are we the only race that destroy our own and embrace the ones of our oppressors? Why are we the only race that destroy our own and embrace the ones of our oppressors? As an African, you see your fellow African doing African spirituality and traditions as evil, but you call the ones invented by your oppressors, by your European masters, slave masters, you call it original and real, but your own spirituality you say is evil. Africa, listen. Italians did not invest in Ferrari companies in Africa, Lamborghini, Aston Martin, Pentagani in Africa. No, but they invented Catholic in Africa. All right? Arabs didn't invent any factories in Africa, but they invented Islam in Africa. Same with America, same with England. Okay, do you know every month there is number of percentage of financial support money that goes to Rome and England through Anglican and Catholic in Africa? Imagine we are giving Italy, we are helping Europe to become rich through religion. And after you cry that slavery, this one, Africans, why you don't reason with your brain to learn? Why can't you wake up? We are the only race that answers other people's name, language, food, culture, and education. The European community paid a huge sum of money to cancel the history of European genocide and Holocaust in Africa. If any African know the history of Belgium in Congo, history of British in Ghana, Nigeria, history of America in Liberia, history of Europeans that gave you religion, names, culture, education. If you know the history, none of you will go to that country to play for them as a football player, as a sport player, work for them in their countries. If you understand the history of what these people did. But today, I can never see a German youth calling Adolf Hitler evil. Adolf Hitler killed millions of people.
See me a blessed land, me I want. A Babylon, them I wanna push on down. Almighty Jah, yeah, children them I cry. Plenty men every.
As a real Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, releasing now, or Somalia will be a paradise to Nigeria.
Control, mental brainwash, theories, fiction, illusions, faith, believing in things that you don't know that exist, believing in things and hoping in things that doesn't exist. Do you know how the missionary came to Africans? You don't know. Do you know the modern Egyptians, Algerians, Moroccans, Tunisians are not real Africans? Don't you know the place the modern Egyptian, the modern Arabs in Africa are staying is not their own? They invaded and chased the black Africans away and took the land. Do you know in the Bible The only two countries in Africa mentioned were Egypt and Ethiopia. Ethiopia was about the Queen of Sheba, and Egypt was where they destroy African country. They call Egypt evil. They use Egypt for evil example for all sorts of bad things in the Bible. That they enslaved Israel. This one. Do you know Israel came in existence in 1948? Before that, Israel were Palestinians. Do you know Israel came out of Palestinians? Do you know Africans? How can a country that is less than 100 years be enslaved in Egypt for 400 years, and you believe this? You don't reason Africans. Egypt is the first country in the world to be civilized. The Roman Empire, the Rome architectural plans, the Greek Athens architectural plans were derived from Egyptians, from the real African Egyptians. They are black. They are not white. They are not yellow. They are black. Egypt is the first country on earth to be civilized. Egypt is the first country on earth to have light. Egypt is the first country on earth to build story buildings without cement. Egypt is the first country on earth to have power of leadership. Egypt represents wealth, light, power, respect, love, creation. But today, African Christians are praying the Egyptians I see today, I shall see no more. Because of what they told you in the Bible that never existed. There is no record of Israelites being in Egypt for 400 years. All these are fictions and illusions. Because Israel only existed in the year 1948. I guess so. Yes. Go and look it up. So tell me, why are you guys being brainwashed up till now? You don't want to research, self-aware, and wake up from religious mental slavery. This is how they control you. If you want to get a people, you take away their language, their culture, their traditions, their names, and their food. They are gone. This is what happened in Africa right now. As an African, I cannot marry someone from Guinea, someone from Senegal, someone from Mali, because I'm not Christian, I'm not Islam. I have to turn to Islam to marry a woman from Africa. I have to become a Christian to marry a woman from Nigeria, from Ghana, because I'm not a Christian. Maybe I'm Islam, I'm Christian. I don't have religion, I'm evil. Do you know it was the Moors from Morocco that taught the Europeans how to take a bath, how to shower? The Moors civilized the Europeans. Don't you guys know? You guys know the country that destroyed Africa? Portugal, Belgium, England, Spanish, USA. These are countries we accepted as friends. They came and sabotaged us through our weak and wicked ones. Because in every set of people, there will be a bad person. That does not mean you will call our ancestors evil. Are you all right? Did our ancestors kill any people? Did our ancestors invade any land and destroy people? Can't you wake up, Africans, and know who you are? Stop practicing European religion, European culture, European tradition. Stop doing white wedding. Do our African traditional wedding. Is enough. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery, Africans.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, great Biafrans and lovers of freedom. This is Radio Biafra House of Service coming to you through Radio Biafra London. My name remains Mazi Chinasa from Olu province of Biafra land. And today is the 5th day of August 2023. Tata Bobochi Orie. I welcome each and every one of you in today's edition, in today's programming. But unfortunately, our IPOB community app is down. It is under fixing. So let's hope and cross our fingers that it will be restored in few minutes. Otherwise, we shall see whether to reschedule this today's program with Mazi Chinasa Nworu. Please stay tuned and do not go away yet, because our IPOB community radio is down and it is under repairs for now. Let's wait and see whether it could be, whether it could come back in the next few minutes so that we continue the program. Otherwise, we can reschedule it to another day. Because as you may know, today, Mazi Chinasa Nworu should be on air, but we are waiting for the IPOB community radio, for our app to start working. If not, we have to reschedule it to another day, please, because there is no need talking and speaking, and limited set of people will be listening only. It doesn't too much make sense. So let us continue waiting as the repair is going on. Please do not go away. You can also download TuneIn Radio, TuneIn, Simple Radio. You understand? Because my voice is coming out through all these platforms. It is on your Play Store, TuneIn Radio. Also, we have a Simple Radio. Inside this Simple Radio or TuneIn, you will see different radios, including IPOB, including Radio Biafra London. From there, you can start listening. But please do not go away. Let us continue waiting.
The intervention in Libya was couched in benign terms. I could give you 100 interventions where the justification, objectively speaking, was on the basis that there was evidence either of genocide or evidence. I'm sitting in Rwanda. The international community stood by as the genocide against the Tutsi happened. Yet in the same year, they were intervening in West Africa. The construct of benign and malign is controlled and related to the question of narrative and strategic self-interest. We've often not paid enough attention, and thank you, Chairperson of the African Union, for educating us on how the international fora of decision-making, the Security Council, and other fora, including at some stage, how we transact within the International Criminal Court and other platforms. That evidence, and that was my point, we don't control data, we don't control digital platforms, we therefore are not controlling narrative in both analog and digital forms. What can practically be done? We do need to speak to Europeans, not as victims, because the erasure of the contribution in European consciousness of Africans to modernity and civility has constructed a white supremacist view that sees the evolution of modernity as a singularly European contribution. And it is only now that our young researchers are beginning to excavate the contributions of Black people, of Africans, towards inventions, because until now, the province of economy was not the province of black people. In my country, in Zimbabwe, when land was taken, a British court gave a judgment that said, the question before them and who owned the land, they said, one thing is certain, it cannot be the native because the native has no sense of ownership. It was on that basis that land was taken. Number two, on the question of economics, even we pejoratively only talk about our people as informal law, informal economy, yet the informal economy is formal. That's how India developed through its cottage industry. That's how we have a psychotic addiction to colonial definitions of what, and that's why Professor Ashraf is correct. It's not just a narrative about our contribution historically. It's a narrative about our contribution now. Our young people who developed M-Pesa, which is now being used globally, who developed Ushahidi, which has been used by over 300,000 organizations, including the Japanese, the US military, and the NATO forces, are never sufficiently credited. Why? Because
come on here and
it
explain
is not
what
in the current psyche of most Europeans possible that Africans are anything else except the object of charity that deserve our mercy and our pity. Why? Because they are governed by tyrants, right? Or Africans are incapable of ethics. And we've constantly said that Switzerland, which received the Abacha loot, which received the loot from the then Zaire and now DRC, has constantly been ranked in anti-corruption indices as the cleanest country in the world. PLO and I are lawyers. The receipt of stolen property is theft at law. How is it that you will have Nigeria and Kenya ranked so far, and yet the country that receives the money ranks so up? I think that if you're changing narrative, you also have to change behavior. Our African leaders and citizens constantly confirm the European caricature, an object of pity. When we come into this spaces, we can never transact revolution in courtesy. I like to be civil, to be courteous, right? But each time I start pointing to atrocities committed by African governments, the Europeans and the Americans cheer me up. Each time I refer to the historical atrocities and continuing atrocities committed first by governments and by companies that are dumping cyanide into our underground water and nuclear waste, right? You know what it is said? This is retrogressive. It's undermining investment. It's again, listen, we cannot win the narrative battle by arguing in pockets. They are happy us talking about our localized, indigenized oppression. They are never happy us talking about the question of distribution and redistribution of the global economy, of global power. And what Nkrumah and others realized in 1963 at the founding conference, if Africa is not represented, if Africa does not own its narrative, but you can't own your narrative if your leadership is totally disconnected from its people. You can't own your narrative if your intellectuals are totally disconnected. We have underinvested in rural areas and slums where the majority of our people are. In fact, we treat them as security threats and they are over-policed. Number two, we have underinvested in our academic and research institutions. We'd rather bring McKinsey and bring Deloitte and Touch. They will help us do AU reform. Why? Because there are no African consultancies that we know. Even if they exist, we have no relationship with them to help us with AU reforms, with anything else. And this is not a pronouncement on McKinsey or Deloitte. It's a pronouncement on ourselves. We have not, as a leadership, begun to recognize that the native is capable of knowledge. The native is capable of economy. The native is capable of invention. You can't change the narrative if the starting premise is we're trying to be like Europe and to catch up. We can't change the narrative when we're constantly trying to learn from others without understanding, and I'll end with that. What William Tunga said, the former Chief Justice of Kenya. He says, let's not engage in this romanticist view that there can only be one way to learn. We first must indigenize knowledge. That's what I say, learn from our culture and traditions. Number two, we must diversify who we learn from. We can not only learn from the West, we need to learn from everybody who has something to teach. Number three, we must domesticate what we learn. If we're going to learn anything, let's domesticate. I think the chairperson and the minister said it's consciousness. Narrative is first and foremost by realizing self-worth, self-belief, and looking inward, so that when you look outward, it is to supplement not a vacuous state of nothingness and inferiority, but it is to supplement a very stable, solid foundation where your culture, where your values, where your value for people is supported.
In the role that it's supposed to play.
There's no such a thing. SADC, there's no such a thing. AU, there's no such a thing. It's a group of all people who protect each other. They don't protect the interests of their people. It's a club. It's a gentleman club. They don't care. They don't call each other out. So they are unable to say, you are wrong here, you are wrong there. And therefore, this is how we need to fix it. And the way forward is that the youth must take politics serious. The youth must participate in politics. The youth must lead. Because most young people have left politics into the hands of old people who have nothing to do with us. AU has got a plan called 2063. And those people won't be there in 2063. That's why they can say 2063. They won't take responsibility. So we, the youth, we must stop suffering from political apathy and take the future into our own hands. That's how these structures are going to function, because we know that if we fail, if we say 2063 now, and we fail, we'll be held accountable in 2063 because we'll still be there. But our leaders won't be there at that time. Young people must start reawakening themselves and take politics serious. When it comes to voting, they don't vote. When it comes to political participation, they don't participate. They have given themselves into other things other than what matters, which is politics. If you go into America, if you go into developed countries, they take voting very serious. Here, we have to beg people with material to go and vote. If you don't cook, if you don't give them T-shirts, they will never go. I mean, what type of an attitude is that when you know that this is what is going to decide whether I'm going to have a clinic or not, whether I'm going to have a school or not? That affects your daily life, but you treat it as a by the
Now, the current, I just want to come on here and explain why the black man, can't make it. Because this is the current order that we're in. Now, the current order we're in, if we look at the race pyramid, we are under the dispensation of the white supremacists. Yeah, I can't even say the word. They are the ones who are in control. And if we look at the race pyramid, we'll see that this is where we are, guys. This is where this is where the global system of control, the global system of politics, the global social order places us at the bottom of the pyramid. As we are still seen as slaves, we are still seen as the workers, the unskilled labor. Now, right after this, we get the rich black people. So in case you're wondering, why can't our African leaders do something? Why can't our African billionaires do something? Why can't Obama set, black America free? You think so? Because no matter how rich you are, no matter how successful you are, no matter how quote unquote powerful you think you are, all black people, this is as high as you'll get. This is it. And so we'll see that most of, the next level of the pyramid is the rich black people, the educated. And also here you get, the poor whites, the poor Asians. They don't get down here. I think the worst people off in the world are the black people. Then you get the Asians, the Chinese, the Indians, there, here. Then you get the corporate whites, the ones that manage the entire system. And you'll see them as the CEOs. You'll see them as the senior managers. You'll see them as the UN heads of missions. And basically, they benefit from white privilege. So you'll see in every developing nation, there's always a small clique of, that you call them the senior management. There's always a small clique of white. They might not see themselves as supremacists, but I'd say they're white apologists. And they are here keeping the system running. And at the very top is the elite white. They're the ones who came up with the Freemason order. They're the ones who actually adopted Egyptology, because this race pyramid is basically a replica of the Egyptology mentality, where Pharaoh was at the top, the slaves were on the bottom, and people were distributed, in different ways. Now, when we come back, I'll show you how the race pyramid is actually directly correlated to the Maslow hierarchy of needs. But for now, look at what Pharaoh Egypt looked like and how it never left. These guys went to Egypt, they stole the secret knowledge that was ours, that was there, and now we're living that reality, still enslaved, like 5,000-10,000 years later. We'll be right back.
Open up your eyes.
Enough, isn't genius enough to make it in this world, when actually he's been booby-trapped to stay at the bottom, whether he's in his own nation, whether he's in Africa, whether he's in Europe, whether he's in the US. And, a lot of people will ask, why do a lot of famous athletes and famous musicians in the US marry white women? It's because of this, guys. They, regardless of how rich and famous they get, they can only reach this level. But if they marry a Kamzungu wife, they can get here. She pulls him up, although they both pull. He pulls her down, but he somehow. Rich black men have been convinced that the only way to really get to the top of the ladder is by marrying a white woman. But you'll only ever get till here. Now, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Now, why it's important is because Maslow, he was a famous scientist, and he did some research where he looked at human motivation and human desire. And what he discovered is that there are basic needs that every human has. And these needs and desires, they're on a pyramid. And most people are here in survival mode. And as long as you're in survival mode, you will never, ever climb up to your destiny, because you'll always be contending with this. And he said that once survival is taken care of, then someone was able to move on to the next level on the pyramid. Once security was taken care of, so on, and so forth. And so what we see is that as a black people, as an African people, people have needed, the elite have needed to keep us at the bottom of the barrel, providing resources for cheap, both human resources for cheap, both our material and natural resources of the continent for cheap, providing, all kinds of free labor, free thought, free energy. So what they do is they keep Africa and they keep Africans in survival mode. We're always concerned about, if you look at most of Africa is poor, it's concerned about clothing, it's concerned about, where they're going to get their food from, where they're going to live. And so they can never aspire to their true destiny because they're still here. Now, most of our leaders, no matter how far they make it, most of our visionaries, most of the successful Africans, both in Africa and across the diaspora, once they make it, their greatest fear, if they're in Africa, their greatest fear is their physical security. So they have to now move out of the hood, move to the leafy suburbs, get security. And they're constantly now trying to protect this new lifestyle. So they can never aspire to much else or even ever hope to reach destiny. Now, that means that our great visionaries don't even have the space to really, pull these guys out with their philosophies, with their ideas, because they're all about security. Now, what you'll see is that love is the next thing. And what you'll see is that Asians, usually they're on this level, which means they're on this level. If you check, you saw in the Egyptology, this level was basically the shopkeepers, the traders, the people who keep the system going. They interact between the elite and, the slaves. And so, because the elite created this middleman because they never wanted to have to deal with, the black people who they felt were inferior to them. And so what happens is that you'll find most Asians are caught up with culture, with love, and so they're kind of in this space. But now, once you've dealt with love, once you've found your security and you've dealt with love, then you come into self-esteem. Who am I? What kind of lifestyle do I want? Quality of life, paternity leave. These are when these issues come, 4-day work week. Because you're here now. You're thinking of self-esteem. You're actually able to think about yourself, think about, your beyond your basic needs to what brings you happiness, what brings you peace, but not really being able to shape the world or take any kind of dominion. And you know what you find is that most of the Mzungus, most of the white people are on this level where they're apologists because they're just at the level where they can't think about destiny, whether their own destiny or even global destiny, but they're just thinking of they're getting their self-esteem together. They're thinking about, you know, who am I? Why am I here? They're stuck here. Then now, the elite, they're the only ones who are planning destiny. They're the only ones who, all these other desires are taken care of by this system they have created. And so, you know what? They're the ones who are planning. And you'll see, if you do your research, you'll realize that, you know, the US has a foreign policy plan for Africa that is 50 years ahead, 100 years ahead. Do we even know what we'll be doing in 50 years? We don't even know if we'll be alive then. We can't even fathom having a plan for any nation, let alone our own nation, for 100 years. That's why we are currently in the order of these people, because they have booby-trapped this system to keep people underneath so that at the end of the day, we're not even hitting destiny. So we are submitted to the Mzungu people's destiny, to the white destiny, which puts us down here. Now, the only way that African people can escape this system, this current global order, is by creating a new system. There is no way we will rise. It doesn't matter how much money you get. It doesn't matter what democratic system you put in place. It doesn't matter, you know, what corporation you create, what technology you get. You'll see all technology is stolen. I mean, we invented, you know, a black person invented M-Pesa. So many things have been invented by black people, and yet they're stolen. And so it never trickles down. We will never climb up. And so if we want to be free as an African nation, first of all, we must understand this is the global order that rules us today. And secondly, we must find a way supernaturally to get in sync with the Most High so that we can move from survival to destiny. It will take a supernatural act, but we are in Genesis times, we are in revival times, and anything is possible. Stay woke.
Enough concentrated was Africa. In my opinion, we weren't enough concentrated was Africa. I say it for I'm the direct neighbor, but first of all, Africa is not a poor continent. It's not. It is a continent that has many, many resources. Moreover, rare earth, metals, raw materials, 50% of arable lands. We're not taking care of that. And Africa today is victim of many external spoilers that work against its stability. It is something that can be used against us. Well, I think it's normal that everyone tries to defend its national interests. The problem is if we are able to do that. I mean, what I don't really agree with is the approach that sometimes the West world had with these countries. For the idea I have is that we are always ready to give advices, but not so ready to give a hand. They don't trust us a lot. And I cannot say that they are completely wrong. That's why my opinion is that we have to change.
Welcome back. This is Radio Biafra House of Service coming to you through Radio Biafra London owing to the situation, or I mean the technicalities of the problem that we are having, we are not able to fix the thing as scheduled. And I mean the application, IPOB Community Radio. Therefore, we have to reschedule today's program, please. We are very, very sorry, and our apologies to whom it may concern for the inconveniences that this might cause to each and every one of you. We are Biafrans. This is a freedom fighting. We must continue. So Mazi Chinasa Nworu will also put on his timeline, write something about the reschedule of today's program to, it will be another date. It will be rescheduled, I mean fixed within few days. You understand? So that is it. It doesn't make sense to be speaking to people, whereas I'm receiving inboxes that our app is not working, which is right. Even some FM stations are off. So we have to fix all these things, and I know that our app will be up and running in the next few hours. I know that. So, but it doesn't make sense in order to continue speaking only one side, and just few people will be listening, please. So accept our apologies. It is unforeseen circumstance that has been there. So some people are thinking that it is their phone. Why their app is not working is because of their phone. But no, please. It is not your phone. The problem is not from you, neither from your network or anything. It is a technical problem, a technical glitch, which we are doing. But it will be up and running highest in the next few hours. I assure you that. Therefore, please accept our apologies. You go to Mazi Chinasa Nworu's page. In the next few minutes, he will put out the information, and we will reschedule within the next few days, please. Because today's program would have been an eye-opening, but anolata echivonta. That is it. So, Biafrans and lovers of freedom, as you might know, this is a freedom fighting. That is it. Our existence is fight, is war. And now topple it with this fighting for freedom. You see what is going on in Africa, in Niger, where the Europeans now are using Africans as usual. Very, very shameful. They are using African politicians in order to pull everybody down. How do you think that Africans will have respect? They know they can. America has about 1,000 soldiers in Niger Republic. America have the highest drone station in Niger. Do you know that? The largest drone. France have more than 1,500 soldiers in Niger Republic. But they cannot stop the terrorist attack. They cannot win the war against terrorism in the Sahel. Don't you see that there is something terribly wrong? And once their interest is threatened about uranium, now you see them, they cannot come straight. They cannot declare war. France and America cannot declare war direct. Otherwise, it will be as white fighting blacks. It will gather more sympathy from blacks all over the world. But they use their so-called democratically elected politicians in West Africa in the name of ECOWAS. For you to understand that ECOWAS, African Union, they are sponsored by the West. They don't fight for the betterment of the population. But what they should know is this, that it is a war between the few politicians in Africa. Let's start by West Africa. Between them and the whole millions and millions of population. Because let me tell you, the whole population of West Africa is with Niger. What I'm telling you is 100%. The whole population of Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Gambia, Benin, Togo, Cape all, the whole population are with the people, the military junta of Niger. For your information, that is the truth. So, but the few politicians there that are that are serving the interests of the West are now being used to do the dirty job of the West, to maintain their, the West grip on us as a people, to continue pulling us down. But they will understand that it is not, it is no more yesterday. Today is no more yesterday. They use West African Frontier Force, comprised of Africans, mostly Ghanaians, in order to subjugate and conquer Africa. I mean, West African countries. During the the colonial time or pre-colonial time. Today they want to use Tinubu and the rest. This is the real reason why Tinubu, among that, he committed institutional coup. He committed institutional coup. That is what when you rig election, you enter through by force, by anyhow, crook and hook, or crook and crook, in any way, to become the president of a country. It is a coup against the people, because you relegate people's voice to nothing, which means it's a coup. But America, they support all this. The West, they are hailing them that it's a democracy. To hell with that. This is their version of democracy. To hell with them. Niger say Abba le démocratie américaine. Abba. That is what it means. To hell with them. That is a slogan that was started by Thomas Sankara in 1983 when he entered power. He said Abba colonialism. Abba la démocratie de l'Ouest. To hell with them. There is nothing like that. The real democracy of Africa should be defined by Africans, not them, the West, imposing on us anything, right from religion to so-called our way of life, the way they want us to live, government, everything concerning us. They impose it on us. And you think we can continue like this? The answer is no. We cannot continue. Nothing lasts forever. A time comes in people's life, they start thinking, why is it that we are relegated to suffering? Look at France, has been selling since uranium was discovered in Niger Republic. Uranium. Do you know, fat man, the uranium that was used in making the first nuclear weapon came from Africa, from Congo, from Katanga in Congo today. Which fat man, the aircraft called Fat Man used in bombing, America used in bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He came from Fat Man, from Katanga in Congo. Do you know that? They have been exploiting us. Instead of us, even if, instead of exploiting us, leave that in there, leave it there. It continues, it remains our own. Even if in the next 1 million years, leave it there. France have been selling uranium. 1 gram of uranium is $218 US dollars. And they remit only 5% to Niger government. Don't you see that is pure arrant criminality? You take something from somebody's land, instead of doing the business 50-50 or at least equal basis. Oh, you are the person that is extracting it. Okay. Now they do everything. They give Niger Republic 5%, and all these politicians are there. It is them that are being used in order to validate all this nonsense for them to remain in power. You understand? I will talk all these things in full details in all these days. I will talk about it in full details because the Europeans, the West, they have been ripping us. They have been ripping us. We need to develop the capacity of resistance, capability of resistance, defending our interests. These people you see that are being so-called elected, democracy in West Africa mostly, there is a cycle of slavery. I've been saying it. This so-called imposed democracy can never in any way help us. It will never advance us. It is a means by the Europeans, by the West, to impose their own stooges on the whole population. but their time is come. Their time is now near. Time up. We are in a end of the game, because this time around the population of Africa, populace, West African population are galvanized together, irrespective of their governments, because we have social media. Anything that is happening in Niger, it affects, or in Nigeria, it affects every African country, and that is why African population should rise up. Disregard your politicians. They are never representing us. For your information, they are not representing us. I'm telling you. So, this is what we are saying. And I know that we continue in what we are doing. Therefore, I will stop here so that, another day will be fixed for this program. As I have said, please accept our apologies. Accept our apologies. Thank you for listening. From me, Mazi Jonathan from UIT, simply good evening.
Kaije, kunitenu kaije. Kaije, kunitenu kaije. Kaije.